Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ignite Business Talks podcast. Okay, today's episode, what are we talking about today? So, we are talking about 1099s. It's a wonderful time of year where you have to start thinking about 1099s. We're in close to the Q4 time period here. So, if you haven't been getting these during the year, what you need to get the 1099s out, we're going to talk about some things you might want to consider as you're working on getting those out. And so the due date for these is October 31st of next year. So you might want to stay tuned and pick up on a few things. So we'll be right back in a second. Go ahead and stick right here. All right, everybody, and we're back. Thanks for tuning in today to the Ignite Business Talks podcast. So today's topic, like I said before, was 1099s. And before we begin, I just want to remind everybody to don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video on your social media, with your friends, with your family. These are great topics. If you know anybody who has a business, we talk about a lot of topics that are very relevant to anybody who has a business. And so we want to make sure we spread the knowledge. So feel free to share with whoever you want. We want you to kind of learn and understand all these various key tax and finance topics, okay? So today's topic, 1099s. All right, so if you don't know, all right, as a business owner, one of the things you're required to do is to file 1099 miscellaneous and 1099 NEC and 1099, all kind of 1099 forms, okay? They're called informational forms. You send them to the IRS, basically notating who you paid money to as a business to an individual or another business, typically for services provided by that business, okay? So, wanted to go over the rules because it seems to be a lot of confusion out there sometimes on what's required and what's not required, okay? So we'll probably get you 90% of the way there. Unfortunately, there's another 10% where we have some outstanding questions with the IRS trying to confirm some new changes that are related to these pesky forms called the 1099K forms, which are related to places like the Venmos of the world, let's see, Cash Apps of the world, PayPals of the world, etc. And so there's these new 1099K forms that some of these places that historically have not been sending them are going to have to start sending these out. And so we're going to have to try to figure out where you might need to send a 1099 and where you might not need to. So first of all, let's stick with the basics, okay? At the very base level, all right, if you pay someone more than $600 in a year for services provided to your business, okay, you need to request a W-9 form from that individual or from that business, okay? Now, if that W-9 form shows that they are an S corporation or a C corporation, then you do not have to worry about sending a 1099 to them, but you can if you want to, okay? Additionally, if you pay the person with a credit card, you do not have to worry about sending a 1099 to them. Okay, and you should not in that case because the credit card processor is required to send a 1099 on your behalf, essentially. Okay, and so if you also send one and you pay with the credit card, then it basically gets double counted in the IRS systems, and the taxpayer, whoever the business owner who you sent it to or the person, might have to figure out how to report that on their taxes because technically they didn't receive the same amount twice. Okay, so credit cards, don't send it, which if you're taking hints here, that's an easy way to get out of having to worry about 1099s is to pay as much as possible with the credit card. Okay, so really our concern, our little box that we're worried about are people who you pay more than $600, they're not an S Corp or a C Corp, and with the one exception, attorneys, even if they're S Corp or C Corp, you still have to submit the 1099 for attorneys. I don't know why. They hate attorneys. I don't know. Who knows? But that is still something you have to do, even if they are S Corp or C Corp. But generally speaking, any other business, S Corp, C Corp, don't have to worry about it. Okay? So they're not S Corp or C Corp, paid them more than $600, and you paid them with cash, check, wire transfer, ACH, some other bank transfer, Zelle even counts as a bank transfer, okay? So if you paid them any of those ways, then you have to send a 1099 to that individual or to that business, okay, based on their W-9 form, whichever they put on there, okay? Now, the gray area is related to Cash Apps, Venmos, all those other third-party payment processing apps, okay? They're starting to have to be required to report what's called a 1099-K, even for cash payments, as well as credit card payments and stuff like that, right? And so, because they're starting to have to report the 1099-Ks, this also applies to places like Ticketmaster, Airbnb, VRBO, all those places that take payments on your behalf, basically. They're starting to have to report these 1099-Ks as far as who the money's being paid out to, okay? So, essentially, you're going to start receiving a lot more 1099s as a business owner in the future, depending on the type of business that you're in, okay? Now, the gray area is, do you have to send a 1099 to someone who pays you with Venmo? I'm sorry, to someone you pay with Venmo or Cash App or one of those other payment processors? That's the part that we haven't had clear guidance from the IRS whether you still have to send a 1099 or not. In theory, if the other company is required to send one, then you would typically not want to send one as well because that's going to be duplication. But at the same time, we don't know if the other company is sending one or not to that person or that individual that we're paying. And so we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? And so the reason why we don't know is because the other person on their end could call that account a personal account. And if they call it a personal account, then they're not really technically required to send the 1099-K to them, all right, even though it was for a business transaction, okay? So there's some of those little finicky rules that have to be worked out. But as of right now, the safest bet for you as the person paying the money to the individual or the business would be to go ahead and send the 1099. That's my policy. That's my thought process on this. Until we get clear guidance and convincing evidence from the IRS that they don't want you to do it, even if the person may not actually receive any 1099 at all, depending on how they, classify their account type with the payment processor. Who knows? So as of right now, you don't have to worry about sending 1099s. Or I'm sorry, you should send 1099s to those people, even if they pay Cash App or Venmo. So based on that, the advice or thought process is, as much as possible, try to avoid using Cash App or Venmo or any of those other people. Just use Zelle. Zelle makes it very clear, right? Zelle, you have to send a 1099 because Zelle has already came out and said, they've even gotten approval from the IRS, I believe, to say basically they are not a payment processor. They are a bank transfer medium between two bank accounts. That's all that they do. They don't take credit cards. There's no way to do any of that kind of stuff, right? It's all just money moving between one bank account and another person's bank account. So it's just like if you were to do a wire transfer or a ACH or something like that. It's just a faster way of doing it, an easier, faster, cheaper way of doing it. Okay? So essentially, that's Zelle's position. So if you're going to use like a quick instant payment processor, use Zelle as much as possible. Have a bank account that allows Zelle. The other person hopefully can accept Zelle. That's an easy way to kind of know exactly what you need to do. Okay? Otherwise, any of the other things like Cash App and Venmo and all those guys, you're kind of, I don't know. So once we get more clear and convincing guidance on this, and there may be something that I haven't heard about, but as far as I know from various people I've talked to, no one's really heard clear and convincing guidance on this. So hopefully we get some more guidance on the future. Okay. But moral of the story is, have to send 1099s to anyone you paid more than $600 in a year, not an S corp, not a C corp, and you paid them through like cash, bank transfer, wire transfer, ACH, Zelle, all those types of payments. Okay, you got to send 1099 to them. The 1099 form is due by January 31st. Okay. Additionally, you do not have to send a 1099 if all you purchased was products. So like, let's say you go to a storefront and you bought some products from them, or let's say you order some stuff from, I don't know, Staples or whatever. Obviously Staples is a corporation, so they clearly wouldn't count either. But generally speaking, you don't have to worry about sending 1099s for products. It's mainly going to be for services that you're paying for, right? So that would be non-employee compensation. A 1099 NEC would be for services that you're paying for someone to do, whether it's a business or a person. Okay, they're doing services like legal work, accounting work, um, uh, let's see what else, contract work like construction, plumbing, electrical, maintenance, all that type of stuff, musicians for bars, that kind of stuff. Okay, those are all 1099 NECs, non-employee compensation. Okay, there's two types. There's two main types of forms: 1099 NEC, non-employee compensation, and 1099 miscellaneous, which is just miscellaneous. There's a lot of miscellaneous stuff that goes on there. That's the old form that it used to be. It used to be just one form. They split it up into two for whatever stupid reason. It makes it more complicated for everybody. Who knows? Whatever. But basically, a 1099 miscellaneous would cover stuff like rent. So technically, if you're paying rent to your landlord through check, you have to send a 1099 to your landlord at the end of the year, unless that landlord is a corporation, a C corporation or S corporation. Okay, so you have to still send 1099s to that landlord. If you, let's say, pay money to an attorney for like a settlement or something like that, that has to also go into a 1099 miscellaneous form. All right. If you pay like a prize money to someone who won a prize, let's say you did a raffle and they won $1,000, that would go on a 1099 miscellaneous form because it wasn't for services. It was just something that they won as miscellaneous income. Okay. So all those things have to be distinguished between the two forms. Now, the 1099 NEC, for the person that's receiving those forms, typically has to pay self-employment tax on the 1099 NEC, which is one of the reasons why the IRS, I believe, wanted to segregate the two forms, is to make it clear that 1099 NEC, you have to pay self-employment tax. 1099 miscellaneous, you generally don't have to pay self-employment tax on that income. Okay, it's usually like other income that you get that you don't have to pay self-employment tax on. So let's see, anything else that we want to touch on 1099s? We touched on the due date, January 31st. Okay, a good rule of thumb or practice to follow is to always request a W-9 form before you pay somebody through cash, check, bank transfer, wire transfer, or Zelle. Okay, always get a W-9 form before you pay anybody through those mediums. If you do that, you're going to help yourself out tremendously in the long run. You should be doing that anyways if you have contractors, because once you sign the contractor agreement, the next thing should be to get a W-9 form from that contractor on how to remit their tax form at the end of the year so they can go pay their taxes. Okay? All right, so W-9, that, let me see. Anything else? I think those are the key things. Pretty short, simple, and easy. I think that's the key things to consider in relation to 1099s is we need to just make sure that we are factoring in all that stuff. Okay? So hopefully everybody liked that. Good reminder for some people who are used to it, and a good kick in the ass for people who don't ever follow the rules. So you need to make sure you follow these rules. I can't stress this enough. Here's the negative downside if you don't do these rules. Okay? If you get audited and you did not do 1099s, and I've seen this happen before, okay? One, they could penalize you for not sending them, and two, they could disallow all the expenses for not sending them. Okay? I've seen it happen before. All right? Hundreds of thousands of dollars of contractor expenses because they did not send 1099s. It was so egregious that they basically said, nope, I'm not going to give you those deductions. So you have to be very, very careful with making sure that you send 1099s. I mean, even if you can't get all of them out, at least get as many of them out as possible. The more you can get, the better. It makes it at least seem like you're trying to comply with the rules. As long as you're trying to comply with the rules, they'll usually cut you a break if you're missing a couple. Okay? But if you don't comply, if you're not sending any out whatsoever, clearly you're trying to pay people under the table or whatever the case might be, or you're just being lazy. I don't know. Who knows? But it's a part of being a business owner. You've heard me say this in so many videos. You have to take responsibility for your own crap. You cannot you cannot completely avoid responsibility for what you're doing. You have to take responsibility for it, okay? You have to take responsibility for it. It's your responsibility as a business owner to understand your tax rules and tax laws and tax implications related to what you're doing, and make sure that you implement procedures and processes to get the stuff done properly, Okay, so you have to make sure you get it done, guys. All right, guys and gals. All right. So thanks for everybody for tuning in. Appreciate you for listening to this video. Hope everybody enjoyed. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and to share the video with your network, with your friends, family, everybody, all the above, as well as social media networks. We love to spread the news, as well as the information that is important and pertinent. So by all means, let's yeah, do that. So thanks for tuning in. Hope everybody has a good one. We'll talk to you some more later. Peace.